Into ISA315, identifying and assessing risks of material misstatement. Guys, I'm not going through the standard again. I just want to highlight the specific information they have to assist you with computers. Okay, and if we go down here, you will see I have now highlighted Appendix 3, Appendix 5, and Appendix 6. Appendix 3, understanding the entity system of internal control. Guys, this was applicable previously because it deals with whatever type of internal control. However, I've now gone and highlighted because there are specific IT risks that I want you to see in there. And then Appendix 5, considerations for understanding information technology. So just to understand a little bit more about the information system and all the detail that they give you in the standard, and then understanding general IT controls. Okay, I want to take you to the definitions because the definitions have some specific computer information system terms that I want you to be aware of. The first one being general information technology controls, general controls. These are the controls over the entity's IT processes that support the continued proper operation of the IT environment. So these are the controls that need to be implemented before any processing so that they allow for proper operation of the system. Next, the IT environment. The applications and supporting IT infrastructure. So it says an IT application or program. That is what is used to initiate, process, and record the transaction. So that's your information system. The IT infrastructure. What have they chosen? A network, operating system, a database. And then the IT processes and how they manage any program changes. Risks arising from the use of IT. So this is the susceptibility of information processing controls to ineffective design or operation. This means the general controls, program changes, system development, and implementation were done wrong. So that is the risk from using IT. Just that the system was set up incorrectly, and so all the transactions, all the master file information that goes in will not be done correctly. It will not be processed correctly because it wasn't programmed correctly. Okay, let's go straight to understanding internal control. Understanding the entity's system of internal control. Guys, there are minor points under control environments and risk assessment and monitoring that deal with the computer information system. And I've addressed those in the lecture. I want to go specifically to the information system and the control activities because this is where you're going to get a little bit more assistance in the standard for your computer controls. So under the information system, it said you needed to understand the entity's resources, including the IT environment. Okay, and so A140 to A143 going to give you a little bit more information about the information system. So let's go there. A140 is specific heading saying the entity's use of information technology and the information system. The auditor must understand how they have decided to include an IT environment because it could give risks arising from the use of IT. This system could be programmed incorrectly. And if the system is programmed incorrectly, it means that your transactions and amendments to master files will be recorded incorrectly. Next, let's go to control activities. And paragraph 26B says, based on the controls, you need to identify the IT applications and the risks arising from the use of IT. 166 to 172. Further, it says, for such IT applications, we need to identify the risks arising from the use of IT and the general IT controls. So we're going to go to 166. And again, you've got a heading, identifying IT applications because of an IT environment and the risks from using IT and general IT controls. I've highlighted Appendix 5. We've already highlighted it up in the contents page, but very important. You need to understand the risks arising from using an IT environment because it's going to affect our decision on whether we want to test the operating effectiveness of the controls. So just to note, if the general controls are not designed effectively, then we are not going to rely on any application controls. It's also going to affect our decision in our assessment of control risks at the assertion level. It's also going to affect our audit strategy and testing IT applications. It's going to affect our assessment of inherent risk only. Look here. If there were new or changes to an applicable financial reporting framework, so this, guys, was your inherent risk. But because of that inherent risk, there's a control risk because the control or the systems are not able to appropriately take the new requirements or the change of the requirements into its application. So inherent risks are not affected or do not affect our assessments of control risk. However, this inherent risk shows the knock-on effect on the internal control and as a result a control risk. Okay, it's going to affect our decision on the further audit procedures that we need to perform. And a 171, if the entity has a greater complexity in its IT environment, this is when the audit team may need to consider getting IT specialists. And then it discusses what we've just done in those advanced computer information systems, the risks because of a network operating system database interface between IT applications. And then the general controls, Appendix 6. And then they note here, additional risks for using IT, unauthorized access, unauthorized program changes. If they decide to outsource, there's a risk of your cybersecurity. So if the outsourcing company doesn't have the necessary controls, they could lose information. And they just make an additional note here. The higher the volume of transactions, the more automated application controls could be complex. Okay, so guys, those are the key points that I want to highlight where this standard actually discusses IT. Now let's go to the appendixes. I'm going to start with Appendix 3. It is very important that you do look at Appendix 3, guys. It will help you to understand the control environment, the entity's risk assessment process, monitoring, and so on. So it is really important, but what I specifically wanted to highlight it under the entity's risk assessment process is that they need to identify risks relating to the use of IT. So maintaining the integrity of data, making sure that it aligns with the IT strategy, and if there are any changes or interruptions in the IT environment or turnover of IT personnel, what are the risks that could come about that? Guys, just also above that, here are some risks here that the business should identify within the business, but these all are now also risks at a financial statement level. So just to be aware that there is additional guidance of your risks in understanding internal control. Then you get to the information system and control activities. In control activities, they add now the logical control activities, authorization for access to computer programs and data files. Okay, then I want to go into Appendix 5, which deals with IT environment, and it explains the benefits of using an IT environment. So where there's large volume of transactions and you can apply automated control, it addresses the risks immediately with one control. It can perform complex calculations. It enhances timeliness because a computer system can be programmed to do functions that would take a person a while to do. You can get additional information and analysis of information. Monitor the performance of procedures and activities, reduces the risks that controls can be circumvented, and can enhance segregation of duties through those access controls. Also, automated controls may be more effective than manual controls where you've got a high volume of transactions that are recurring. So you can actually set a program that can help with any errors that you can anticipate or predict, or where you can automate a control because it's easy to design. Okay, and then you'll see it gives you examples of the type of characteristics of different softwares. So a non-complex commercial software, something like our accounting software, Sage, where I go and buy access to the package. I can't make any changes to the package. I have to use it as it is, but it's set up to align with the type of business and transactions we have. If it's a moderately complex commercial software, it's a little bit more advanced, and then you've got a large or complex IT system. So that's where you would have gone as a company and designed and developed your own program. And then guys, all it goes and does is gives you some different examples of how you could go about processing the information, and then says whether it's applicable to each of the three. So guys, you can go and work through that. You'll see here, it says how is data input. There's a manual input, so like I showed you. And then in the more complex ones, you might actually get data feeding through other interfaces, so not necessarily somebody inputting the data. Okay, so it just explains and gives examples. Volume of transactions, so this is more appropriate for a low volume, whereas a complex one might be more appropriate for a high volume. Customization, so this one, there's no customization, it's purchased. This one, there could be little customization if you purchase with the ability to make some customization. And then the very complex type of system is developed, it's customized, so that it is applicable. Okay, whether third parties are involved, you could outsource, but in a very complex one, you probably have your whole IT department within the business who's going to manage and ensure that it runs effectively. Okay, so here you might have a few IT personnel, and in here you'll have loads of IT personnel. Okay, so just some examples to just give you an idea of the different type of systems. And here we've got some examples of where an IT application is not subject to risks from IT and where they are likely to be subject from risks with regards to IT. So your standalone applications, the low volume of transactions are not likely to. Where you've got a large volume, where applications are interfaced and interlinked, you could have those risks. Okay, and then it just explains the different types of infrastructure and additional risks using IT. unauthorized access, unauthorized access, unauthorized changes, failure to make changes where they actually need, inappropriate manual intervention, and loss of data. So those are some of those risks in having a computer information system that you need to have general controls to address. Okay, Appendix 6 has then got all the general controls. It's explained slightly differently, but just so that you can see, you have to have general controls to manage access. So your access controls, and for authorization, so that you've got segregation of duties, and to authorize new users, and to remove access for people who have left. You need to have physical access controls. And then program changes and managing of programs. You need to have general controls over that to make sure that they design it properly, they test it properly, they migrate or convert the changes to the new process. Okay, there must be segregation of duties over that. They need to have the correct IT personnel. Data conversion must be done correctly. And then managing IT operations, backup and recovery. So again, those general controls highlighted here. And then those 3 different types of applications: not so complex, medium, moderately complex, and very complex. Once again, they go through some of those general controls noted above and discuss whether they are applicable. Okay, so you can see access is always going to be applicable, restriction of access to all of them. Segregation of duties, yes, will be able to happen because of access controls, username and passwords. Okay, and then just with regards to changes to the applications or processing or programming, you can't do that for your less complex type of systems, but you can if you develop the program itself. Okay, so you can just work through those just so that you can see, but nothing too complex. I wouldn't spend too much time. It's just trying to understand the different type of systems that are applicable. Alright, so let's go and do a question. Class example 1, I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes. There's no reading time. I just want you to consider what you would do having seen that required.